Good afternoon, everyone. I think we're going to get started here. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Sara Bukowiec. I am the Senior Program Officer at Rochester Area Community Foundation. So I was excited to be invited to join you all today because, as you may or may not know, the Community Foundation typically focuses our efforts on grant making in the region, focusing on two different big areas, creating a more equitable region, and then also focusing on our region's vitality through arts and culture and historic preservation. And what we recently got involved in is our mission-related investing program, where we really wanted to look at how we can actually not just put grant dollars back into the region, but we recognize that there was a need to support our entrepreneurs in the city of Rochester. Impact investing is a pretty large field, but we decided let's look at what the biggest community need is, and in our area of wanting to create a more equitable community, we realized there hasn't been equal access for all, and we wanted to lift up supporting BIPOC entrepreneurs within the city. So ironically, we have two panelists here today, obviously our friends at Venture Jobs Foundation and then the Enterprise Center at Pathstone. Those are two of our first partners that we selected that we wanted to invest in to give dollars back into the city of Rochester, and specifically BIPOC entrepreneurs in the city. So, to my right, we have Albert Rivera, Business Development Officer at the Enterprise Center at Pathstone. Little bit of background, the Enterprise Center at Pathstone is an affiliate of Pathstone Corporation, a multi-state community development corporation. Established in 1997, the Enterprise Center is a designated community development financial institution, so CDFIs. Its mission is to enhance the economic self-sufficiency and quality of life of individuals and communities through entrepreneurial training, technical assistance, access to financing for new and expanding businesses, and mortgage products for underserved borrowers. Its small business loans are paired with a strong program of pre-loan and post-loan technical assistance to support clients' growth. While the loans range from $500 to $250,000, most startups are limited to a $50,000 max. And Albert, I'm sure, will share a lot more about that. Welcome, Albert.
Thank you.
And then we are very lucky to have Mr. Denny DeLeo, President of Venture Jobs Foundation, here today with us. I will let Denny do most of the talking about VJF, but as a highlight, VJF has been committed to revitalizing underserved neighborhoods and improving quality of life. They do so by supporting and investing in entrepreneurs and in growing businesses to foster job creation, because VJF believes that jobs are the key to growing prosperity for all. Why we're all here today. Thank you for joining us, Denny.
Delighted to be here.
So we're going to sit with you all for about an hour here today. The intent of the Prosperity Conference is to educate and explore the two themes in the name of small business in Rochester. So inclusiveness and supporting Rochester and their entrepreneurs, and then building a collaborative ecosystem. That includes funders, like Rochester Area Community Foundation, support organizations, and government services to support the community and business owners with services and funding opportunities that are necessary for growth. But I think we can all agree that we have to be intentional about that support, so I hope we can explore those topics today with my fellow panelists. So first, actually, I'd like to go to Denny to just talk a little bit more about VJF, a little bit of the history, and why inclusivity really matters to the work that you all do.
Thank you, Sara, very much. I was born and raised in Rochester. My parents were the offspring of immigrants, and they were born and raised in the North Clinton Avenue area of the city. I had the good fortune to be an employee at Kodak for some years, and those were great days for Kodak, and they frankly were great days for Rochester. With Kodak having 65,000 jobs, you could go anywhere in the city at that time. There was activity, people were happy, the level of prosperity was certainly reasonable, and in some of the research that I did on a project, I learned that the term poverty did not get into the census reporting on Rochester until into the 1980s. I left Kodak with an early retirement some years ago, still in the good days at Kodak. But then when Kodak ran into difficulty with changing technology and so forth, I could see the erosion beginning in the city. And when you combine that with the growth of the suburbs and the building of shopping malls in suburban areas, the overall stresses on the city were quite apparent to me. And I said, something has to be done about this. And I thought about how I could help as a resident, lifetime resident of Rochester, really. And the concept of the Venture Jobs Foundation grew out of that, because I know that jobs are really the things that bring prosperity to people, and from prosperity comes more opportunity. And really it needs to be done in a very inclusive way. So I started the VJF with nothing more than an idea. And the idea was to bring jobs back to Rochester's underserved neighborhoods. As it turns out, the client base that we have served have been primarily entrepreneurs, black and brown, and women entrepreneurs, and we're delighted about that. Do you want me to talk about the services, Sara, now, or? Sure. Okay. So the VJF is a capital provider. We raise money and we deploy it into activities consistent with our mission. We have programs we started out for a few years, we were very quiet. We then got some very good support from JP Chase, from the philanthropic arm in New York City, and that really began our opportunity to live more in the fiber of the city and to help the residents. We have 3 general programs that we have been running. The first was we call it the VJF Rochester Fund. It started out with a $100,000 grant from the city of Rochester. We had to raise matching capital, which we did, from JP Chase, Canandaigua National Bank, and a couple of private investors. That's been going on for some years now. I think maybe we may have had one default, but by and large, it's been a very successful program. We take no cash out of that program. Every dollar that we get back goes back into the bucket of capital that we invest for that purpose. And these were loans up to $50,000, and I would say on average they tended to be $20,000, $25,000, maybe $30,000. We knew that we needed to do more. And we applied several years ago for certification as a CDFI, which is a community developed financial institution chartered by the federal government. I'm pleased to say that we were certified about a year and a half ago. And that allows us to raise much, much more capital. And we can make larger loans. And as part of that, we received this very generous grant from the Community Foundation. And we received another generous grant from the Farish Foundation. And so this has been wonderful, and we were just really getting that off the ground. Ken Marino, who has organized the conference today for the VJF, and Alexis Russell, our marketing director, who are stalwarts of the Venture Jobs Foundation, really run the day-to-day programs now. At my age, I need to start handing things off to others. But we are working to develop the CDFI program. And the other thing that we know is that if you look at any underserved community, on average, it will have, the entrepreneurial population is probably 5 to 10% at most, and the balance of the folks in the neighborhoods are job seekers. And you know how difficult finding walkable jobs are in some of our neighborhoods because the construction is in the city and in the suburbs. So we are thinking about a program for future launch that would invest in businesses that would relocate to an underserved neighborhood or grow in an underserved neighborhood and bring their jobs. And part of our cost to them of that capital would be to offer a certain number of jobs and the associated training to residents of the immediate neighborhood. So if we can do that, we will have several programs that are hitting entrepreneurs, as we have here today, plus the balance of the populations of these neighborhoods which need a lot of help. So I think I've taken enough time to give the backstory. Sara, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Denny. And I just wanted to switch gears and ask Albert a little bit about, the technical assistance aspect of your programming. Before I get there, I will just share that the Community Foundation did what we called an entrepreneurial ecosystem assessment. So when Dr. Lomax Campbell was talking about creating a network and really understanding who the players are, we did a whole assessment of what different resources were available to entrepreneurs in the city. We had a thesis that we thought, okay, we believe that if we invest in certain organizations that are already working with BIPOC entrepreneurs, that with more money, more entrepreneurs can be funded and more business and more opportunity can be presented. But we wanted to also be really careful with where we put those dollars. And one huge criteria for us was that organizations that we invest in had to have a strong technical assistance program. We wanted a pipeline for entrepreneurs that could use the funding, but also people who were really caring about understanding what the entrepreneurs needed and supporting them and getting them ready to either take their business to the next level or start it. So, Albert, if you could talk a little bit about the Enterprise Center at Pathstone and sort of, the technical assistance that you guys offer and sort of what that looks like when you're getting ready, folks ready for loans.
Thank you, Sara. So, me representing the Enterprise Center at Pathstone, I've been doing this for about a year now with Pathstone, but have vast experience in workforce development. Just giving you a little bit of background of who I am. I'm learning the ropes here in Rochester, but it's been great. I've met a lot of people and have met a lot of clients. So one of the things that the Enterprise Center does is the technical assistance side of getting you loan ready, okay? We take the client from A to Z, okay? With all the insight that it has when you're trying to build a loan package. And I don't know if any of you have small businesses or have done that part. It's tedious, okay? It's something that it's not easy. Gathering the information. Sometimes we use language that I may know, but my client may not know. So those are things that we help the entrepreneur to reach that financing. We decide together if it's time to get a loan. Maybe it's not time. It's not the right time right now. We analyze your credit. We analyze your funding options, your projections. We take all that into consideration and we make a decision together. And that's one thing that I do pride myself is because I listen to the client. It's not what we actually want or what the organization wants. Sometimes we have to listen and just figure out the hurdles that our clients are going through in order to secure financing. One of the things that Pathstone, the Enterprise Center, has now is that we also have a grant option available for business owners that are located within the city. Okay, so if your business is located within the city, you could be eligible for up to $10,000 in a grant award. Okay, there are some requirements, obviously, in order for you to tap into those funds, but it's something that we tie in together with the loan. Okay, I've got plenty of stories that I've had. I've come through working with people that want to make their own business. One of the important things is that we get a lot of clients that want to start up, right? They want to start their own business. But when you talk about the business plan and you talk about any money saved up and you talk about all these things that they should be thinking about, they're like, oh, wait a second, I need a business plan. And sometimes the answer is, I've got it all in my head. That is awesome. And I think your plan is great, but let's put it on paper. Let's talk about that, because when you put it on paper, you could actually analyze where you're going, where you're headed, okay? Sometimes your idea may be a great idea, but maybe it's not the right time. And I think, I don't know, in one of the sessions this morning was, I think Agustin had talked about that is, who's your client? Because in your mind, everything's perfect. Everything's going to go, it's going to be smooth sailing. But when you put it on paper, who's your client? And where's your location? And, you know, and we see that every day. You know, so those are things that we look at in the technical assistance side. Now, the actual documentation side, we explain to you what is needed. We sit down, we look at the documentation you send to us, okay? Right now, we could do it in person, we could do it over the phone, Zoom meeting. I mean, there's endless possibilities. After COVID, everything changed. And I think it has been for the better, in a sense, you know, because we're not tied down just to in-person meetings, and if you can't come to the office, we can't help you. All right, so we have a little bit of everything within our portfolio of loans. For me, it has been a real pleasure working in Rochester. For some reason, I thought it would be more difficult, you know, just coming here, because I came from an island, okay? So I came from Puerto Rico. You know, lived almost all my life in Puerto Rico. I was born and raised in New York City, but I left when I was a child to Puerto Rico. So living on the island, it's not the same thing as living on the mainland, okay? Things change. Permits change. The way the culture sees certain businesses changes. So this is all a learning curve for me, but thank God I've got all my workforce development background to help me understand the client, listen to the client, okay? So I could talk for an hour if you'd like.
No, thank you. One of the things I just wanted to lift up in terms of Pathstone, I was shocked that Pathstone was able to serve over 2,000 small businesses and entrepreneurs through the virtual training and technical assistance that you were talking about. So I just think that, you know, your organization has been able to be really flexible in serving folks through the pandemic and beyond. So just from a technical standpoint, the Community Foundation is uniquely positioned to be able to offer loans to organizations like VJF and Pathstone because of our philanthropic sort of core. So our board of directors approved for us to be able to carve out a percentage of our almost, well, over $500 million endowment asset. And so we were able to say, okay, where do we want to start? We said we wanted to start with supporting BIPOC entrepreneurs in the city, but we knew that there have been a huge gap in access to loan dollars. So what we do, if that's at all interesting, is that we offer a loan and a lump sum at a low interest rate to our partners so that they're able to then in turn keep it low for the small business owners. So we're in it for the long haul with our partners and are working together to say, is this amount of money good? Are you able to distribute it back into the community? Do we need to pause? And it's sort of a relationship that's really nice to be able to work together to try to solve for access issues. So in terms of access and just kind of technical pieces with your small businesses, can either of you just touch on slightly sort of what that looks like if they were to receive a loan from either of you? Are you flexible in your terms? Like what does that look like for a small business that
Well,
might be
let
interested?
me take it for the VJF point of view. In our lending, we want to make sure that the borrower can use the money productively and is able to repay it. But during COVID, as one example, we deferred payments of principal, and we went interest only for a period of time so that the borrowers could manage their business and survive during a time of great difficulty. I'd like to say a word about collaboration because that's a big, important point of this conference. Lomax Campbell, who was in by remote audio, has done an incredible job to bring together agencies like the VJF, like Pathstone, and like Rochester Credit Counseling, and I expect that to continue. And that's the first serious accomplishment that I've seen to really encourage collaboration. So in the case of the VJF, I can't say that we've yet done work with the Pathstone Enterprise Center, but we do have a technical assistant program. It started out as a very basic business analysis program, which we called the Jobs Kitchen, cooking up jobs. The commissary at Sibley Square thought we were talking about a restaurant, but that was not the case. That program was really recreated in Rochester by the Urban League, and they have a different name for it. So we took ours up a notch. We now call it, it's the CAFE program, Capital Access for Entrepreneurs. It's about a 12-week program. I think it's been done, Ken, virtually and in person. And we use a program called Live Plan, which is an online business plan building program. It is used by the entrepreneur. They're mentors. We provide mentors for that program. The mentor can work with them on the plan. There are now, if you can believe this, artificial intelligence tools on Live Plan to help them flesh it out. And with that plan, they are much closer to being able to go to a lending institution and present a package that's credible. But to Albert's point, it is a very tedious process. Banks are quite fussy about what they want. So we end up spending a lot of time working with them individually, even with the plan. And Scott Schmidt, who handles that for the VJF, I'm sitting in his chair today because his wife came down with COVID, so he's tending to family business. But I see that over time, we will be working very actively with Pathstone Enterprise Center and with others in the interest of bringing more capital to the entrepreneurial community in Rochester, because without capital, you cannot create jobs.
Thanks, Denny. Is there anything else you wanted to add about your kind of just what the process looks like for anybody in the room that might be interested?
The process is tedious, but when you have organizations like Venture, Jobs Foundation, and you have the Enterprise Center at Pathstone, and you got other organizations that could actually help you build that loan package, it is tedious, but you could get there. I mean, there's ways of getting there. You got to put in the work. That's one thing that I always tell my clients. You need to put in the work. You know, it's not going to get, to you easily. And then the other thing that I wanted to add on was we as a non-for-profit organization, we could take just a little bit more of a risk when it comes to lending for startups, just because we have funders like Community Foundation and other funders and other private entities that provide that capital for that specifically. We won't look at your credit score and say, well, if you don't have X amount, we can't work with you. We look at the credit history and behavior. We look at different things, character. There's different things that we look at. Me as a business development officer on my level, that's what I look for. What type of person are you? What type of business? Well, how many jobs are you going to create? Is your business going to be impactful to the community? So just adding on to, why the technical assistance is so important when it comes to this process.
Thanks, Albert. So in terms of Pathstone and the Enterprise Center, I saw that 65% of business owners in your current portfolio are people of color. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of Pathstone, about creating access for all, and how Pathstone's addressing sort of the historical inequities and systemic racism?
Well, when it comes to the minority-owned businesses, we're always out there in the community doing the outreach, doing the effort to bring in certain clients that may not otherwise be able to access capital. That's why we exist. So that's an important part of the puzzle when it comes to the Enterprise Center at Pathstone. My current loan portfolio is pretty diverse, but it is mainly as the 65% is, and I would say maybe in my own portfolio is a little bit higher. Okay, word gets out that we help you, that we go out there and you could potentially get a loan. We also get a lot of referrals from different organizations that work with minority businesses. So that's another piece of the puzzle that we also try to integrate. Where are these referrals coming from? Why are we so successful when it comes to minority-owned businesses? And it's interesting because I guess it's the way you treat the client and the way you have that conversation with the client is the way that they would come back and actually do the work and work with you. Because I could speak to them at a certain level where they could understand the information. And we could take the time to do that because that's what we do. That's why we have the technical assistance side of our organization.
Denny, I'm thinking about a conversation that we had a long time ago, just thinking about the possibilities in Rochester through small business and entrepreneurship. And I know that one of the offerings with VJF is not just startups, but growth lending and looking at, how existing businesses can thrive and grow. So can you talk a little bit about sort of what you see in terms of promise with, I guess, first-time entrepreneurs, and then also the opportunity in Rochester for growing existing businesses?
Happy to do that, Sarah. We spend a lot of time with the entrepreneurs that we support. We want them to be successful. If they are not successful, it's unhelpful to them, it's unhelpful to the neighborhood, and it's unhelpful to the community. So we dedicate a lot of time. As I mentioned earlier, I think in our VJF Rochester Fund, we may have had one default, but that's it, and that portfolio continues to grow. That will go up to $50,000. Anything above that, we would fund out of our CDFI money, which is provided by the loan from the Community Foundation and from the Farish Foundation. These are generally businesses that have had a history, an operating history. They may have received funding from us or from someone else, and they're seeing the opportunity to grow further. So our CDFI lending will be looking for businesses that are at, let's call it an early stage 2, where they've gotten some groundwork. We want to help them prosper. So areas that we would discuss with them would be, to what extent are you running your business so you can generate revenue from outside of the immediate neighborhood and bring the revenue and the profitability from a broader marketplace, whether it's online or something else, back to the neighborhood? Because then that allows you to create more jobs in the neighborhood and bring more prosperity to folks there. So it's a disciplined process, Sarah. It's a careful process. We want to be repaying our loans to the Community Foundation so that we can recycle this and do it again. And so far, we're very pleased with where we are, and we can't wait to do more in the CDFI space as we're building that capacity.
Great, thanks. I'd like to just touch on briefly, we think about, it brings to mind a program in the city where it looks at vacant lots, and there's flowers that are growing, and this program is tapping into the youth right in that community to teach them how to grow the flowers. I see some people nodding their heads. And I just think there's so much promise in the city with our youth as well. And so part of what the Community Foundation does is look at programs that are, supporting our youth in the city and helping them to see the promise and possibility in job skills and even entrepreneurship in some cases. So in terms of what you've seen, Albert, with businesses that have been successful, I'm going to switch gears a little bit for folks that are in the room that I'm sure at all different stages of their entrepreneurial journey. I guess I would ask a question that I didn't prepare either of you for. What would you say is sort of qualities or things that the most successful businesses that you've seen have? And then I guess any pitfalls that you would also, advise to sort of avoid.
I think that when we see successful businesses, I think it's very important that this business owner be organized. And look for those resources in order to keep their business organized. A lot of times I could see that during the loan package process, obviously they're going to be more organized because they're looking to secure financing. But then they secure the financing, and then we start asking for, like a year into the loan, let me see your taxes for the year that, oh, well, I haven't filed yet. And I think that's where if you're organized as a business, it takes away a lot of the work that comes to resolving issues later on. Instead of being proactive, you're being reactive. That's one thing. And I think that one of the pitfalls is not knowing the rules, the laws, regulations towards your business. I've had businesses come around and I see their projections. I'm thinking, okay, so everything looks good. Now, I don't see insurance in your projections. Oh, but why would I need insurance? I'm going to be an at-home business. I'm like, well, you're selling a product, a service. Anything could happen, okay? Not just regular property insurance. You need liability insurance. You need something to cover you if something happens. Other thing is that, they've got staffing, but they're not contemplating payroll taxes. Well, if you're paying a person, there's got to be taxes. So I think the general organization and being organized as a business owner is really important. And that'll take away a lot of the work that comes to resolving issues instead of not creating new ones.
I would then also add that being involved with an organization like Pathstone or VJF to help work through those issues probably helps in spades, and to catch issues like that and then coach.
And if we can't help you, we'll find somebody that can. We've got resource partners that are out there that you may not know, but we're constantly knocking on doors to see what resources are out there.
Denny, what would you advise in terms of all that you've seen in terms of?
Well, I think that Albert's comments were very good. The other important area for any entrepreneur is what is their expertise. When you look at any business, there is a marketing component, the customer-facing piece. You have something to sell and you need people to buy it. Some entrepreneurs are wonderful at marketing, but they may not be so excellent on the financial side, or they may not be so excellent on the manufacturing side. A business to be successful needs reasonable balance across these different areas of expertise. So if you are a whiz at marketing, you may need somebody to work with you that can manage the books and or manage the relationships with your vendors and your other relationships. So besides understanding some of the details of the regulations and working with CPAs and lawyers, you need to make sure that you've got the balance of expertise so that your business can be successful and grow profitably.
Thank you for that. Shifting gears just slightly, because I'm here and a voice from the Community Foundation, something to keep an eye out for to the entrepreneurs in the room is that there is a collaborative project. Speaking about collaboration in our region, it's just so important. The Community Foundation often acts as a convener or a thought leader to challenge the community to come together for something. And one of the ways that we are working on our goals of building a more equitable community is a project called the Rochester Procurement Equity Project. And essentially, we're pulling together the largest employers in the region and asking them to examine their procurement practices. And they're going to be looking at who their vendors are and assessing how many of those vendors are from the BIPOC community. And so inevitably what's going to be coming out of that is work to be done, and then also assessing where there are opportunities for BIPOC vendors. So I'm excited to see where that assessment happens, and then we look at where the gaps might be, and then sharing back with our partners in this space to say, we really need some more vendors in this area, and who do you know, and making those connections. So there could be some life-changing connections that happen in the sense of making those connections with some new needs for vendors. So just wanted to share that as an exciting piece. So I don't know how we're doing on time, but I did want to ask both Denny and Albert, just for anyone in the room, what other advice or anything else that we may not have touched on that you would like to share from VJF and Pathstone's perspective? Anything that either of you do to support the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Rochester? And I think I'll start with you, Albert.
Thank you. So, and this is just my opinion, right? I think that we have a lot of people that have these great ideas and want to become business owners. And I think that organizations like our organization, we have to be mindful of these small business owners that are going into a venture with not all the information that they need, right? We should be able to help them steer them in the right direction. Sometimes it's hard to have that conversation with a person that has a dream, right? You're not crushing the dream. We're just saying let's talk about it a little bit more and let's shape it so it could be successful. And those are the things that you know, on my level, that's what I do. I listen and I make sure that whatever you are thinking about or whatever this business owner may need, and this is not only for startups. We're talking about existing business that maybe they want to venture out and do something different with the business. Maybe you know, expansion is good. When is it the right time to expand? You know, how much is it going to cost? Okay, so those are the conversations that I like to have with my clients, and those are the conversations that we should be having with our clients and with our partners. And sometimes just sharing best practices is one thing that I also like to ask. Listen, so how's it been in your organization? Anything new that you guys are doing? Anything that we could, you know, collaborate on? Those are the conversations that I like to have.
Thanks, Albert. Denny?
I would echo what Albert said. We spend a lot of time with entrepreneurs learning what it is that they want to do. We look for weak spots in their business model so we can coach them. We do not want them to fail once we provide capital. So we work a lot in the background. But this is a conference, importantly, about collaboration. And I'd like to put in a pitch for the Venture Jobs Foundation Business Network. This is the culmination of months of conversation going back at least a couple of years. We didn't call it the Business Network at that time, but we had ideas like a shared chat room. So if an entrepreneur had a question about a small detail of their business, and we have a group with 100 people, and they post a question into that chat room, they can get an answer back quickly. An experience I had, we were doing some work on the east side of the city looking at governmental services. And we had a representative from the city there with us providing information. And this person could really not tell us conveniently how to learn certain types of things from the city because it was just too technical and too difficult. So I would say, you're going to be joining the network automatically. Don't drop out, stay in, talk to your friends and other entrepreneurs, because over time, something as simple as this can take a lot of friction out of getting things done, save time, save money, and ease your life as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, thank you. And we, you know, at the Community Foundation, although most of our efforts, I guess, are really focused on social enterprise organizations, we provide grant funding about $40 million a year into the 8-county region. A lot of that concentrated in Monroe County, merely from population comparisons from Monroe to our more rural counties. But I would just add that as entrepreneurs in our region and in our city, if there are things that you're seeing in your communities that you want to lift up to the Community Foundation, you see that there's a need that is not being supported, it's just as important for our entrepreneurs to feel safe and loved and have access to services as well so that they can start their businesses and support their families. So please feel free to contact me if you're seeing anything in the city or in the region that you see as a need that we can help with. But
Sara, if I could just add a comment on that point. We all want neighborhoods in Rochester to prosper. And one of the important aspects of building a neighborhood is to bring new functions, new decorations, that give people in the neighborhood a feeling that their neighborhood as a whole is moving forward. So I would say that, and this is a role of the community foundation, to add these amenities that are not related to the operation of a particular business. That's what Pathstone does, that's what the VJF does. But it is no less important to build vibrancy within a neighborhood. So congratulations on that, Sara. It is extremely important to do.
Thank you. Well, with that, I think that we have been able to have a great exploration discussion around, how we support entrepreneurs in the city, and I hope that you all came away with some good information in terms of how you can tap into both the Enterprise Center and VJF and the Community Foundation. And I wish all of you success in your endeavors and business, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you around. And I hope that you all enjoy the rest of the conference, and please feel free to contact me and reach out with any questions. And Denny and Albert, thank you so much.
I actually did have a question for both of you. So I actually have never taken a loan out in my business, and so I don't know the first thing about that. But within my business, I have 9 entrepreneurs right now. And so really kind of structured like an incubator as well. And one of the things that I talk to them a lot about is building up that base so that they can get a loan in the future when they choose to open up and expand their business once they're ready to. Do you have like a basic checklist or something that folks can just look at so that as they're building their business, they can say, okay, so I need to start collecting this data, I need to have this in line, all of that kind of stuff?
I would say that a checklist is very difficult. Every business is unique. The issues that one business faces may not be faced by another. In the morning session today, a gentleman, I think from Urban League, talked about the business model canvas. That is a very, very good tool to look at areas of business activity and help your entrepreneurs determine where they stack up in each of those areas. So frankly, I would start with something like that as opposed to a checklist where you may miss a lot of important areas.
We have a generic checklist of documents you'll need to actually do the loan, which is generic. I mean, that's basic information that any bank would probably ask. I think that how we probably do it is that we sit down with the client first and see what the business is about. What do you want to do? How much do you need? What do you need it for? And all those questions that we ask, and then we build upon that. I've gotten loans, people that go for loans that they meet all the requirements with the general, taxes and projections, but then it goes down to the underwriter, and there's another set of questions that we may not have seen. So, like having I agree that it's hard to have a list, but I think in the conversation with your technical assistant or your business development officer or however the person that's helping you to try to secure that capital, they can give you that path towards being loan ready.
So can I within that then, thank you for that. Within that, if we have the folks and they're starting to get to that point where they're 6 months into their business and they're considering the expansion within the next 6 months, are they able to come and set up conversations with you or folks in your organization when they're not even ready, just so that they know where they're at?
I've had conversations with clients a year ago, and we're actually working on the loan now.
Perfect.
So it's a journey. Okay, so it may take some time. Loans that I'm closing now were conversations I had 4 months ago. Because it's like I said, we make that decision together. Is it time now? The client, for the most part, wants to get this done yesterday. And that's common and that's good because, you have that, you're eager to get on your way. But there's certain steps that you need to take before that. And I've gotten loans or people that we secure a loan in 3 weeks. It just depends at what point are you in this process. And also gathering the information sometimes is a little bit more difficult, you know? So, yeah, I mean, that would be just a conversation in the beginning. And then I normally set up calls with this person. So if the person says my timeline is in 3 or 4 months, I'll set up a monthly call and see how things are going.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
I would just add, before Denny, if you have anything to add to that, I just wanted to lift up, you know, we do have such a rich entrepreneurial ecosystem in Rochester, and I could see it being kind of confusing if you're Googling, who do I go to for this stage of where I am? And so I would encourage you to pick up the phone and just explain, this is where I am. And I guarantee that if you got Albert or one of his team members or one of Denny's team members, if they can't help you, they will refer you, because it is a very collaborative environment. I mean, I can think of the Center for Urban Entrepreneurship and RegCo and all these different organizations that there's overlap, but then there's also, depending on where the entrepreneur is, there's so many different services and different routes that you can go. So I would say we're a very friendly and open ecosystem in that sense, that don't be afraid to reach out.
And I'd like to add something else, is that sometimes Pathstone won't secure the full loan. Maybe we'll collaborate with another organization like we did with the Monroe County Development. They did a part of it, we did a part of it. So the risk factors, you know, get divided, okay? And if we cap off at $50,000 for a startup, we can give you 70. So you may secure 50 with us, and we'll work with that organization and see, okay, so this is what we have. Would you secure 20 for this person? So that's why these conversations have to happen in order for us to secure, because we don't want to undercapitalize, but we don't want to overcapitalize. We want to be in that sweet middle, okay?
Denny, did you want to touch on it all, just in closing, the different kind of points that people could enter and work with VJF? Or
Well,
would
that's
you
a pretty broad subject, Sarah, but in general,
We don't have enough time for that.
just as Pathstone, people come to us, we have an initial conversation. We may suggest that they take one of our technical assistance programs because they're not quite ready for a loan. When they are ready for a loan, we do the normal due diligence that Pathstone would do as well about the nature of their business, the qualifications of the entrepreneurs running the business, what is their historic financial performance, are they making money, are they cash neutral, are they losing money, all of these factors we need to look at. And then if we think they're ready for a loan, primarily through Scott Schmidt, we run through all of the checklists with them that the lenders would want, and then we would really go with them to the lender to help them through the process. So it's a technical drill, if you will, but I think either with Pathstone or with the VJF, you'll be in good hands to do the best preparation that you can. And frankly, it is better off for an entrepreneur if we tell them that you're not ready for a loan. We know that a bank would just not lend for one reason or another. We coach them on those weak spots, and we may talk to them a time or two after that to see how they're doing, to get their overall business in proper shape to approach a commercial lender. Or approach us, because obviously we want to return our capital to our lenders, because if we make 10 loans and they all fail, I think our chances of getting more money are going to be pretty slight, so we don't want to put us in that position, nor do we want our borrowers to fail.
Thanks. I didn't even ask if we could do Q&A. We're at 3:50. Are we at time? Any other questions in the audience? Don't be shy. No? Huh? Oh, okay, good. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I know I think have at 4 o'clock closing remarks, but thank you again to Denny and Albert, and for you all being here. Thanks.
Thank you.